Good evening and welcome to this evening's meeting of the Planning Commission. We will have an opportunity for the public to comment tonight, and I would like Mr. Pruder to explain how to do that, please.
Good evening and thank you, Chair Dorn. Regarding procedures for communicating, first and foremost, the commissioners will be having their webcams on for the duration of this meeting. For those presenting on an item for tonight's agenda, we kindly ask that you also turn your microphone and webcam on during your presentation for your item. And a member of staff will assign you keyboard and mouse controls if necessary, if you're displaying a presentation. We then kindly ask that you turn off your webcam and microphone when done with the presentation portion of your item, unless called upon by the chair. During the public comment period, members of the public will have an opportunity to share their comments or questions by clicking on the hand icon on your screen, upon which staff will introduce you and activate your microphone. Alternatively, for those who are calling by phone for tonight's meeting, you also have an opportunity to join public comment by clicking the button star 9 on your keypad to notify staff that you have a comment. If there are any members of the public who are sharing a phone line or a Zoom account for this evening's meeting, please kindly inform staff at the start of your public comment, and staff will ensure that the other commenter is also given the opportunity to speak once you've finished your comment. With all that said, I hand it back to you, Chair Dorn. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'd like to do a roll call now. Commissioner Barnes has informed us that he will be attending later tonight, but is not here now. Commissioner DeCarty.
Good evening.
Thank you. Commissioner Harris.
Hi, everyone.
Commissioner Kennedy.
Hello.
Commissioner Riggs.
Good evening.
Commissioner Tate.
Present.
I see you, but I can't hear you, Commissioner Tate.
Present.
I'm able to hear.
I'm here.
Just tell us you can hear.
Is Chair Dorn frozen? Oh,
Could you hear me, Kennedy?
I can hear Commissioner Kennedy. Can you guys hear me?
I hear you intermittently, but my internet is so bad today.
Okay. Commissioner Tate, are you present?
I am. It sounds like half people can hear me, but you can't.
Okay. So maybe I
I'm
was
here.
maybe I was frozen for a minute too. I don't know. I hope not. That's
I
good.
know internet is bad in the Menlo Park in the wind and rain.
Okay. So intermittent connections notwithstanding, with myself, we have 6 commissioners present. We do have a quorum. I'd like to see if Ms. Sandmeyer has reports and announcements for us.
Yes, good evening, Chair Dorn and Commissioners. So tomorrow night, there will be a City Council meeting, and one of the items will be on interim regulations for the implementation of SB 9 that becomes effective in January. That concludes my updates, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Do we have any questions for Ms. Sandmeyer at this time? Okay, I'm not seeing any. I'm going to call for public comment. Under public comment, the public may address the commission on any subject not listed on the agenda and items listed on our consent calendar. Each speaker may address the commission once under public comment for a limit of 3 minutes. Please clearly state your name and address or political jurisdiction in which you live. The commission cannot act on items not listed on the agenda, and therefore the commission cannot respond to non-agenda issues brought up under public comment other than to provide general information. Once again, we will have an opportunity for public comment on the individual items on the agenda later in our program. This is for items not on the agenda. Mr. Pruder, do we have any hands raised now?
Thank you, Chair Dorn. I do not see any hands at this time, but as a reminder for members of the public, please feel free to press the hand icon on your Zoom interface and you can join and request a moment to speak for public comment, or star 9 if you're calling by phone. We can wait a moment if you would like, Chair Dorn, and we can confirm. I still see no one at the moment.
Yeah, let's give people an opportunity to raise their hands. Still no hands?
That is correct. Still no hands.
Okay, I'm going to close public comment and go on to the consent calendar. The only item on the consent calendar for this evening is the approval of minutes from October 18th, 2021 Planning Commission meeting. Does anyone have any comments to those minutes? Want to take them out of the consent calendar for any reason? I'm going to consult my parliamentarian, Ms. Sandwire. We actually have to take a vote on the consent calendar, or can we assume that it's passed by consent if nobody objects?
No, I believe a vote is required.
Okay, so I'll call the roll. Commissioner DeCarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Harris,
Yes.
Kennedy, Commissioner Kennedy,
Yes.
Commissioner Riggs,
Yes.
Commissioner Tate.
Abstain.
Okay, I'll vote to approve. So they pass, they approved with a vote of 5 in favor, none opposed, and 1 abstention. We'll now open the public hearing part of tonight's meeting. First item, F1, is a use permit by Marjorie Adino for 730 Ivy Drive. This is a request for a use permit to partially demolish, remodel, and construct first floor additions to an existing non-conforming 1-story single-family residence in the R1U single-family urban residential zoning district. The proposed work would exceed 75% of the replacement value of the existing non-conforming structure in a 12-month period and requires use permit approval by the Planning Commission. We have a staff report by Mr. Turner. Do you have any additions or corrections to the staff report?
Good evening, Chair Dorn and Commissioners. I do not have any updates to the staff report. However, we did receive one question from the Commission as it relates to the use of natural gas appliances. Basically, just for everybody's benefit, there is a new gas fireplace proposed in this project, and the use of gas appliances is governed by the building code. Some of you may know we established REACH codes back in 2019 when the new building code cycle was getting finalized before it went into effect in 2020. But during those REACH code, the REACH codes that were approved basically said that new single-family residences needed to use electricity for space heating and water heating, as well as clothes dryers. However, single-family homes could still use gas stoves and gas fireplaces. However, the kitchen needed to be pre-wired for the use of electric stoves in the future. But again, gas fireplaces, both indoor, outdoor fire pits, outdoor like built-in barbecues could still use gas. So with that, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Do we have any clarifying questions for Mr. Turner at this time? Okay, seeing none, let's see if we have a presentation from the applicant or their architect or anyone speaking on their behalf.
Hi, everyone. Good night. My name is Marjorie Andino Rivera, the owner of the 730 Ivy Drive with my husband. Our architect is not here. Basically, sorry, our kids are talking. As you saw in the agenda, the proposed planning of us doing construction, I mean, the subjectivity of it is we had 2 more children. The house is very old. My grandmother is in a nursing home and we want to give her a better quality of life. Our roof is very flat, and when it rains, it's a disaster. We get water everywhere. I actually got this house when I was a single mom through a program, and I've been saving up just to make it more in a better living condition. My mother also lives with me. She's like watching the kids. She has a heart condition. I have proof of all of these. So we're kind of like, and it's taken with the pandemic almost 2 to 3 years for all of these to get through. So we're not like doing a 2 floors or anything like that. It's just to meet the needs of our family. You know, we have a teenager, a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old. We only have 1 bathroom. My mom, and then trying to get my grandma from LA from the nursing home so she can spend with us her last days. So yeah, that's all we have to say in terms of more of the subjectivity of the case.
Thank you. Do we have any clarifying questions for the applicant from the commission? Okay, seeing none, I will open it up to public comment on this application. Mr. Pruder, do we have any hands raised from the public?
All right, thank you, Chair Dorn. We do not at this time have any comments or hands raised. So I'm happy to wait a moment more. And as a reminder, please click the hand icon if you're on the Zoom interface, or if you're calling by phone, please press *9 and we can give you the opportunity to provide public comment. We can wait a moment if you'd like, Chair Dorn, just to confirm.
Yep, let's give them a minute. So I'm assuming we still have no hands raised.
Yes, that is correct. You're correct in saying that. There are no commenters raising their hands at this time.
Okay, I'm going to close public comment on this application and bring it back to the commission. Do we have commissioners that would like to ask questions or make comments?
I have a comment.
Go ahead.
First of all, thank you for your application for this project, and I really hope that the rain hasn't caused a significant amount of damage in your home tonight, because it's been quite a day. I also want to say that before jumping the gun, because I'm going to just recommend this, but we approve this project straight off the bat, is that your story is compelling, right? And it really is a very it's not one that we hear often of, right? Wanting to bring many generations into one household anymore. And the remodel is I think modest, and I think it'll be a really nice house, and it'll keep your entire family together, which is what you're trying to do. So I'm hoping that we're going to approve this pretty rapidly. All right, that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Commissioner Riggs.
Yeah, thank you. I don't see any issues with this project, and I don't imagine not having heard any questions, I don't imagine that this is up for a great deal of discussion. I will be so bold as to move to approve per the staff report.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Riccardi seconds. I'll call the roll. Commissioner Riccardi?
Yes.
Harris?
Love the family.
Sorry?
Yes, and I'd also like to compliment you. I love that you were able to move the front door and into the front and add a porch. I think that's just really inviting. So I want to compliment you on that. So yes, I approve.
Thank you. Commissioner Kennedy?
I absolutely approve.
Thank you. Commissioner Riggs?
Approve.
Commissioner Tate?
Through the chair, Commissioner Tate is recused for this item.
Okay, thank you. We'll all vote in favor. So that gives us a vote of 5 in favor, I guess 1 recusal and 1 absence, but clearly you've got a majority of a quorum. You're approved. Go forth and build.
Good. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay. The next item on our agenda tonight is a use permit and variance application by Rasul Oskoy. Apologies if I butchered your name. For 671 Live Oak Avenue. This is a demolish an existing 1-story single-family residence and attached to residence with an attached garage on a substandard lot with regard to minimum lot width and area in the R3 apartment zoning district. The proposal includes a request for a variance for the new resident to encroach into the required 20-foot separation distance between main buildings located on adjacent lots. The project also includes a new accessory dwelling unit, ADU, above the attached garage, which is a permitted use and not subject to discretionary review. We have a staff report on this application. This is again, Mr. Turner. Did you have any corrections, additions, late comment, or anything to add to the staff report?
Good evening again. I do not have anything to add to that report.
Okay, do we have any clarifying questions for Mr. Turner on this application? We don't. Okay, I would like to see if we have the applicant or a representative of the applicant to make a presentation on the application.
Yeah, hi, I'm Daryl Fazekas. I'm the project architect.
Please go ahead.
All right, this is a 5,646 foot lot. Total house is 2471, and it's got a 2-car garage, 433 square feet, and we have an 800-foot ADU over the garage. What we did here is that all of the setbacks, maximum floor areas for the house were initially scaled out. And then since the ADU has a 4-foot setback, the ADU it's attached and it has different setbacks. So working with staff several times, we achieved something that complies with the town ordinance. The variance that we're asking is that the building next to us, as you're looking at it from the street, there's a 2-story office building that's 5 feet from the property line. And we'd like to put the garage for the main house 10 feet to that property line. Well, technically, that doesn't comply with the 20-foot rule between buildings. So we're asking a small variance for that. We have the owner here, if you'd like to hear from him, or if he would like to speak up. And I'm here for any technical questions as well. Thank you.
Mr. Oskoy, would you like to speak?
Yes, thank you, commissioners. I think as Darren, my architect, said, we spent quite a bit of time to meet the requirements of the city and also bring some density, given this house is in a downtown area. So we have also integrated an ADU in front of the house that provides some density. And the other thing is, this house is very old house, and this neighborhood, one by one, is turning over in terms of an improvement. So our next door neighbor, 677 Live Oak, actually built a very similar building without the ADU back 4 years back. and they cannot wait for, and the neighbors also, for us to develop this house, make it a nice single family residence. There's nothing there, and as far as the use of it, we're planning to eventually have the front of the house, perhaps occupied by our son. And for us, if we want to come and live in downtown area in the future, we are considering that as also part of our future residence.
Thank you. Do any of the commissioners have any clarifying questions for the applicant or the architect? Okay, I'm not seeing any. I'd like to open the meeting to public comment on this application. Mr. Pruder, any hands raised?
Thank you, Chair Dorn. I do not see any hands raised at this time, but as a reminder, members of the public can press the hand icon on their Zoom interface or dial *9 on their phone if calling by phone, and we can give them an opportunity to provide public comment. We can wait a moment. I'm still seeing no comments if you'd like.
Yeah, I would like to wait for just a minute.
Great.
Still no hands raised?
Still see no hands raised, so you're welcome to close public comment if you'd like. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to close the public comment and bring it back to the commission. Do we have commissioners that would like to speak on this application? Commissioner Riggs.
I do have a question after all, a question for the applicant, if I may.
Sure.
This is an R3 zone. You are no doubt aware of the city's, I dare say, extreme concern about providing housing within our city limits. I'm curious why you did not build a multi-unit building or propose a multi-unit building on this lot.
Thank you, Commissioner. We did many sketches. We found out that the amount of parking would just be too much. It would basically create an extra large driveway in the front, and there really was no room to do it. The owner does have the option to eventually convert part of his house to a junior ADU if that is required or if that's desirable to him. Plus, we had this large oak tree in the back. A lot of the multi-families in the old days, a lot of the apartments or fourplexes had the driveway on the side, but and parked in the rear, but we didn't want to do that here.
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions or comments from the commission? I'm not seeing any. Anyone care to make a motion on the application? Commissioner DeCardi.
Yeah, I'll move approval as submitted.
Do we have a second? Mr. Kennedy?
I
Second.
second.
Okay, I'll call the roll. Commissioner DeCardi.
Yes.
Harris.
Yes.
Kennedy.
Yes.
Riggs.
Yes.
Tate.
Yes.
I'll vote in favor as well. So the application is approved, 6 votes in favor with 1 absence.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Okay. So I have lost my agenda. Give me 1 second. I'll move to the next item. Okay, the next item, item F3 on our agenda, is a use permit and architectural control application by Matthew Pearson at 66 Willow Place. This is a request for a use permit and architectural control to construct a 1,440 square foot temporary modular office in the C1 Administrative and Professional District Restrictive District. The applicant requests that the office module be placed on the property for a period of 3 years to accommodate additional temporary staff associated with the completion of the Stanford Hospital expansion. The office module would occupy 9 parking spaces, decreasing the number of parking spaces from 91 to 82 spaces, where 72 spaces is required. We have a staff report on this by Mr. Paz. Do you have anything to add to the staff report or any comments?
Staff has no updates to the staff report at this time. We're available to answer questions. And then the applicant also is here with a brief presentation to highlight the project as well.
Thanks. Do we have any clarifying questions on the staff report? I see a hand raised. There's no name attached to that. Commissioner Riggs.
Thank you. I do have a couple of questions for staff. Mr. Paz, I guess. The first is, do we know if this modular will be visible from the Palo Alto side of the creek?
So through the chair, I think that may actually be a question better suited to the applicant. It's my understanding it's fairly wooded in this area, but if I may, turn to either Molly Swenson or Tron Lee.
Maybe we can put that on hold since we'll ask them to speak next. Did you have other questions, Commissioner Riggs?
Although frankly, I had hoped for a staff answer since I think that's the appropriate source to determine whether or not we should have a concern. So I can ask instead.
I think I can clear into it.
I can ask if the city of Palo Alto planning was notified, or if the neighbors on the other side of the creek were encompassed in the 300-foot radius, if they were notified, or do we notify only within our own city limits?
So I saw a hand raised. I'm not sure who it is. It's only showing the screen as Menlo Park. I'm not sure who that would be. You know, Mr. Paz?
That was me. It was raised by accident. Sorry, Chair.
Okay.
So actually, Vaughn may be the right person to ask, as she assists with the noticing. I believe that the 300-foot radius does cross the city boundaries, and I see our Planning Commission liaison, acting principal planner Karina Sandmeyer here as well. So I'll turn it to her.
Yes, so through the chair, we do, the 300-foot radius is wherever that is. So if it's for a property like this that's on the city boundary, then properties in the neighboring city would be notified if they're within the 300-foot radius.
All right, that's great. So perhaps we can follow up later with the degree to whether this would be visible from those residences. And then this would be a question for the applicant through the chair, and that is the air conditioning units that come mounted on the side of a modular unit. Do we know that these units conform to our noise ordinance?
Okay. Would the applicant care to answer that question now? Because the next, Commissioner Riggs, the next item on the agenda is to allow the applicant to speak. They might address some of these in their presentation.
Okay, yes, and we can speak to the HVAC unit specifications also.
All right, thank you. I will defer to the appropriate time.
You'll get another chance. If your questions don't get answered, they'll have another chance.
Thanks.
So I would like to call on the applicant now to make their presentation or their representative.
Thank you. So good evening. I'm Molly Swenson. I'm a senior program manager in Stanford Medicine's Planning, Design, and Construction Department. So thanks to everyone for your time this evening in reviewing our application. Our department is responsible for providing facilities planning, design, and construction services for Stanford Healthcare, Stanford Children's Health, and their affiliated foundations throughout the Bay Area. Our primary office has been located at 66 Willow Place for approximately 10 years now. And the star annotates where that is. It's tucked back behind the former Sunset Magazine headquarters near Willow Road and Middlefield. Just trying to advance to the next slide. Thank you. So our proposal is to place a temporary modular office in the rear parking lot of the Planning, Design, and Construction office for a period of 3 years. It's highlighted on screen. The proposed location is behind our existing office. And we began planning for this temporary office space before the pandemic and before remote work became so prevalent. In the past 2 years, our method of work has changed fairly significantly with remote work, hybrid work. And in spite of all the changes, we have still chosen to pursue this application just to seek flexibility in a very dynamic environment. Our proposal would take 9 parking spaces offline, but our on-site parking count would still exceed what is required by code. And then I just wanted to point out that our site is bordered on 2 sides by San Francisquito Creek, and then on the other 2 sides by office properties. On the other side of the creek, there are residential properties, but wanted to note that the site is heavily wooded, so our proposed trailer would not be visible. Next slide, please. And then just to provide a visual representation of the proposed office, this is a stock image of the typical modular unit. The perimeter of our site, again, is very heavily wooded. You see that in the bottom image, and the proposed trailer location is shown. So this would really have very limited, if any, visibility from surrounding properties. I also wanted to note that tree protection was a key consideration in developing our plans, and our proposal is anticipated to have very limited impact on existing site trees. Also wanted to note that the operating hours of the temporary office would be the same as our existing facility, so roughly 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. And we did reach out to neighbors within the 300-foot radius prior to this meeting back in April, actually, via postcard mailing, including the Palo Alto neighbors, and included an email address where folks could send any concerns, and we did not receive any comments or concerns in response to that mailing. I'm joined tonight by Trun Lei, who is the senior project manager who's been working on this project, and we would be happy to take any additional questions that you might have, and we can of course start by speaking to the HVAC units and their conformance to the noise ordinance. So maybe I'll turn it over to Trun for comments on the noise aspect.
Hello, everyone. Hope everybody is having a good night. So talking about the HVAC specification, I reached out to the mobile modular, who is the supplier of these module, and asked about the specification, and they sent me a list. So we don't know exactly what module we will get. So I just used the highest value of the noise measure at 10 feet away from the HVAC unit. And it would be 67.1 decibel. The distance from the HVAC unit to the nearest residential property line is approximately 170 feet. And the noise level at 160 feet distance would be attenuated to about 51 decibel, well below the 60 decibel daytime allowable level. And the nighttime level is not applicable because of the operating hours. We do not operate during nighttime hours, but it's at 51 at 160 feet. So it's still below the requirements.
And if I may share my screen, I have a Google map that can show you on the other side of the creek. You cannot see anything onto the property line, onto the property in the back.
Okay, I'm not able to enable you to share your screen. I'm not sure who has that control. Senmar?
Yeah, through the chair, the protocols are not to allow screen sharing other than for city staff. I don't know if Vaughn or Chris are able to pull up the image. But otherwise, I think I have pulled it up and it looks pretty clear to me that you would not be able to see the trailer, at least only very small portions of it due to all the trees.
I would like to add that there are 130 trees on and around the property. It's very heavily wooded, and many of the trees are not accessible due to the slope from the creek. It's just really, really heavily wooded.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Riggs, did you get your questions answered?
Thank you, Chair. I believe the ordinance actually is that it has to meet the decibel level at the property line, not at the nearest neighbor. So I was just going to note, if not now, then later, that the applicant, although perhaps Mr. Paz has better information than me, but that's what I recall. So it just might be worth the applicant telling Williams or whoever is providing the modular unit that the AC units that come on it would have to meet Menlo Park's criteria.
Thank you. Do we have other clarifying questions for the applicant before I open it to public comment? Looks like we don't. I'd like to open it to public comment at this time. Mr. Pruder, can you see if we have any hands raised?
Thank you, Chair Doran. At this time, I apologize, I do not see any hands raised requesting public comment, but we can wait a moment, and if still no comments, we can close it following that wait.
Yeah, let's give him a chance. Still no hands raised, I presume.
That is correct. If you'd like, you're welcome to close the public comment at this time. Thank you.
I would like, I'm going to close public comment. The public seems to not be paying attention tonight. Must be the holidays. I would like to bring it back to the chair for any discussion and further questions that the commissioners might have. Do you have anyone that would like to speak on this application? Commissioner Riggs.
Yeah, thank you. I guess my only remaining point that I'd like to make, and this is not, a huge concern, because I'm sure that staff will be in a position to follow through, but having worked with more than one campus myself, as both architect and campus project manager, I know that modulars come, but they rarely go. And if it's the intention of the city to grant this as a temporary approval, the way the staff report is written, then we tonight, I think, should just be clear that lacking another approval, the modular really does have to go in 3 years. They're not terribly attractive. I do appreciate the fact that it would be quite hard to see this unit. And having been guilty of positioning modulars myself across the decades, I can really only just point out that we want to be clear about the rules. And that's all. Appreciate the need.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else who would like to speak on this application? Not seeing any. Someone like to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll move to approve per the staff report.
You have a second?
Second.
Looks like Commissioner Tate was the fastest on that one.
No, Commissioner Kennedy.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yes, Michelle and I sound alike.
Sorry about that. Okay, we have a motion and a second. I'm going to call the roll. Commissioner DeCarty.
Yes.
Commissioner Harris.
Yes.
Commissioner Kennedy.
Yes.
Commissioner Riggs.
Yes.
Commissioner Tate.
Yes.
And I'll vote in favor as well. The motion passes 6 in favor, 1 commissioner absent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the approval.
So we will move to item F4 on our agenda. This is architectural control and use permit by Paul Turek for 2400 Sand Hill Road. This is a request for architectural control review and a use permit to construct a new entrance along with other modifications to an existing commercial building in the C1C Administrative, Professional, and Research Restrictive Zoning District at 2400 Sand Hill Road. The project also includes landscape modifications. We have a staff report by Mr. Pruder. Do we have any corrections, additions, or changes, anything else, further comments on this staff report?
Hello again, Chair Doran and members of the Planning Commission, as well as members of the public. Thank you. And I'd like to say there are no specific announcements or updates at this time, but just to be clarifying my role, I am staff for this project. I'm also going to maintain the PC clerk, Planning Commission clerk position at the same time. So I'll be helping throughout this item just for clarification. And other than that, if there are any questions, I'm happy to help with any questions you have. Thank you.
I have a great deal of confidence you can wear both hats. Do we have any clarifying questions from the commission on the staff report? Okay, not seeing any. Would the applicant or the applicant's architect like to speak or make a presentation?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Chair Doran, Commissioners, planning staff for your time tonight to review and consider our application. I'm Kelly Simcox, Principal Architect for Studio G Architects, and I've been working closely with our client, planning staff, and the design team on this project. We also have our project architect and our site design team on the call as well, so if you have any questions that should arise that they may be able to better answer. We do have a couple of exhibits these are images that are in our planning application, but I thought they may be helpful as I just go through a general summary of our project. Our project proposal is to construct a new entrance feature at the northern end of the northernmost building on the Quadras campus, and that's what you see on this slide. Currently, this building is linked to the existing conference center building by way of a series of additions that happened over time, creating second floor stairs and ramping that link the second floor of these two buildings that happen to exist at different elevations. And that's what you see in the picture in the upper left. Our new entry feature proposes to remove these additions and create two separate freestanding buildings now linked by a more ceremonial entrance canopy. The existing conditions and this proposed canopy are seen on this slide. In addition to creating this canopy to better signify an entrance to this rear building on the campus, we've also used it as a focal point leading into an existing courtyard space that is also being enhanced as part of this project. The site is being brought up to current ADA code by reconfiguring existing parking and a path of travel onto this site, and then through our entrance canopy into the interior courtyard, if we can show the second slide. This shows some images in the upper left here of the existing courtyard feature, as well as some bird's eye views of the enhanced courtyard design, which will include lounge seating areas, work collaboration tables and chairs, a trellis feature, and more planting and trees for shading. In addition to the enhancements to the courtyard, we're also increasing the window lines at both of the existing buildings to create more visual and physical connections from the interior office spaces to this exterior landscape amenity improvements, window styles, and changes to the building skin that are needed to accommodate the new structural improvements to increase this fenestration. We'll utilize the same palette of materials already well established on the campus, and that being board and batten, stucco, and wood shake roofing. We've worked closely with staff over the last year to ensure that our proposed architectural and landscape changes and enhancements work well with and are respectful to the established architectural vocabulary of this campus and the existing portions of the buildings that remain. If you have any questions for us on what we're proposing, we're happy to answer them at this time.
Thank you. Do we have questions from the commission? Not seeing any. I would like to open it up to public comment. Mr. Pruder, do we have any hands raised on this one?
Thank you, Chair Doran. I do not see any hands raised at this time, but as a reminder, members of the public can use a hand icon and request to have an opportunity to speak on this project. And also, if you're calling by phone, you may press *9. We can wait a moment more. I still see nothing in terms of hands or requests to speak.
Okay, I'll give them just a minute to
Sure.
raise their hand. If there are any. Still no hands raised?
Correct, there are no hands raised. You may consider proceeding with closing public comment. Thank you.
Yep, I'm going to close public comment now and bring it back to the virtual dais. Do we have commissioners that would like to speak on the application? Well, I'll speak. I think it's attractive. I don't see any issues with it. If it helps with ADA access, I'm even more in favor of it. So if there are no other comments, I would like to move to approve the application as submitted. Do I have a second? Mr. Riggs.
Yeah, I'll second, and I'll also, well, I want to say first that I'm familiar with Studio G and know the staff there, but I'd also like to point out that the couple of projects that they've done in Menlo Park have been very considerate of context of the existing building and very thoroughly worked out in terms of interior, exterior, and site details. So I think this can only be an enhancement for Quadras, and glad to see it happening. So again, I second.
Okay, I'll call the roll. Commissioner DeCarty.
Yes.
Commissioner Harris.
Yes.
Commissioner Kennedy.
Yes.
Commissioner Riggs.
Yes.
Commissioner Tate. Commissioner Tate.
Yes.
Okay, I'll vote in favor as well. So the application is approved as submitted with a vote of 6 in favor and 1 absent.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So that concludes the public hearing portion of tonight's agenda. I will now open a study session on application by Cyrus Sanandaji for 1300 El Camino Real. It's a study session on a request for a zoning text amendment to modify Municipal Code Chapter 16.92, signs, outdoor advertising, with regard to a previously approved architectural control, below market rate housing agreement, environmental review, and use permit for a new mixed-use office, residential, and retail development on a 6.4 acre site in the SP ECR/D El Camino Real Downtown Specific Plan zoning district. The proposed zoning text amendment includes eliminating the square footage cap on the total sign area for larger projects within the SP ECR/D zoning district, and establishing new regulations to calculate permitted signage for certain projects in the SP ECR/D zoning district. We have a report on this by Ms. Sandmeyer. Do you have any additions, corrections, or public comments so far on this agenda item?
I have no updates, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
So I'd just like to clarify that I believe we've resolved the potential recusals on this. So we don't need to recuse any of the commissioners.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, do we have any clarifying questions from the commission from Ms. Sandmeyer? We do not. I see Mr. Sanandaji is here. Would you like to speak about the proposal?
Good evening, Chair Doran and commissioners. Thank you so much for once again giving us time to visit with you and to discuss our follow-up findings in response to the various comments and requests that were made during the first planning signage study session that was held in late November. I apologize. I just want to make sure that I'm actually controlling the screen. Okay. With that, I just wanted to spend a few minutes running through the specific requests that we understood, or feedback that we understood the commission provided during the first study session, along with our findings in response to those, and then to conclude with the presentation of the request itself with respect to the amendment that's being sought. For the benefit of those who weren't able to join us during the first study session, we outlined the need for addressing and amending the signage ordinance, given that it was not drafted in consideration of the buildings that have since been developed, approved and developed as part of the downtown specific plan. And at the time that that plan was approved, City Council had directed planning to proceed with this very study. We've, as a function of that work, having not yet been completed, but our project essentially, as well as Stanford's Middle Plaza project, accelerating to its current state, nearing completion, we've been asked to essentially spearhead this effort and propose the amendment. So during the first study session, we outlined the request, the challenges the current ordinance posed, and the specific modifications that we were seeking. The feedback that we'd received that led to the second study session was really to address 4 key items. One was to summarize the existing Menlo Park signage regulations that will remain intact. What we were asking for is a very specific modification to allow for these larger frontage projects to receive their equitable share of signage from an overall square footage standpoint. And to support that and to justify the request that's being made in terms of the proposed amendment, we were asked to study the precedent signage standards and provide for examples within Menlo Park, but also in the adjacent jurisdictions in Palo Alto and Redwood City, and to further revise and nuance the proposed signage standards with respect to the comments that various members of the Planning Commission had made and addressing the concerns around the potential of essentially creating a New York Times Square or Las Vegas style environment, which we all want to avoid. And finally, to go out and formally conduct community outreach with respect to the same, all of which we've done, and the presentation will seek to address here. The issues facing signage at the moment, and again, to the commissioners who joined us for the first study session, and I apologize if some of this is repetitive. I did want to give your colleagues the benefit of the conversation that we had during the session, that they had recused themselves. But the history of the current signage ordinance is that there's a 100 square foot cap and for the primary frontage of any project, regardless of size, and 50 square feet cap on the secondary frontages. And so the ordinance as it stands disproportionately hurts a project like Springline or Middle Plaza that have very significant frontages, such that Springline alone could only have 200 square feet of total signage for the entirety of the project, which in and of itself wouldn't even cover our Springline project identity on the arch between the two buildings in El Camino for a sense of scale. The amendments that we are proposing, or the amendment that we are proposing, is confined strictly to the downtown specific plan only, and will not seek to modify anything beyond that specific plan. And the goal of this study session is to obtain the Planning Commission's feedback on our proposal for the amendment to allow for not only the community serving uses, the retail uses, but also our commercial users to receive their proportional signage rights relative to the rest of Menlo Park, and to allow us to move forward with our marketing effort, and we hope the successful lease up and activation of the project. It's worth noting that regardless of the recommendation that would be made with respect to the proposed amendment and City Council's eventual adoption of the same, that every project individually would still have to come back to the Planning Commission and seek approval from the Planning Commission of a master signage plan that would demonstrate conformance to the signage ordinance as amended, and all the existing signage ordinances that would remain, such that this is not a one-time carte blanche approval that would result in each project going off and essentially installing signage at their whim. So with that, wanting to jump forward, as you can see, that there are quite an extensive amount of regulations already in place in Menlo Park, and we bring this up not to recount each point, but simply to provide a summary for the Commission's reference, which address many of the issues and concerns that were raised originally during our first study session, particularly around color and the use of backlighting, or the concerns around sort of the neonification, or again, the Times Square or Las Vegas reference that I think could come up several times as a point of concern. And so none of these regulations are being amended. The only thing that we are proposing to amend, which would remain along with all the existing signage ordinances, is that cap that would then allow these larger frontage projects to receive their proportionate share of total signage allocation. As we previously touched on, there's a maximum of 100 square feet of signage capped at 80 lot linear feet of primary frontage. We have no additional signage at the primary facade beyond 100 square feet after the cap is is hit, and a maximum of 50 square feet of signage as a result of secondary frontages. And the ordinance currently does require a master sign program for multi-tenant properties, and we're not proposing to change that. So really, as I mentioned, it's this cap of 150 square feet, respectively, of the primary and secondary frontages of these projects that we're looking to amend, and have worked on this proposal in coordination with Stanford and the Middle Plaza project, given that ours at Spring Line and Middle Plaza are the projects that are most imminently impacted by the disproportionate sort of limits that are in place. Some examples just for precedent imagery. I'm sure that everyone on the commission drives around and notices these. Just worth noting that there is precedent for a variety of signs, both upper level and at the ground level, along with monument signage as well, in varying shapes, forms, and colors and sizes as well around Menlo Park. We had the commission had requested that we provide similarly feedback on the signage standards in Palo Alto, and this is just a short summary. In short, similar concept of needing to work through a master sign program, but mostly in conformance with our proposed amendment. There are no limitations that resemble what's currently in place in Menlo Park. In fact, the signage allowances in terms of freestanding signs and wall signs and the combination thereof match or actually exceed what we are proposing in our formulation in Palo Alto. Again, with similar just reference imagery showing both the lower and upper level signage, and on the bottom left, just indicating that particularly for buildings on corners or that have multiple facades that aren't mid-block, that we see a lot of examples of signage on both facades to provide for wayfinding and identification. Redwood City and similarly has a sign area formula that calculates 1.5 square feet of sign area to 1 linear foot of frontage, which again is significantly greater than the proposed formula that we would like to amend to be adopted for the downtown specific plan area. Each ground floor establishment may display 1 sign, and each legally recognized tenant is allowed at least 50 square feet of sign area. And they don't distinguish between whether or not that's office, retail, or other uses. And again, similar mechanism of using a master sign program that goes through a discretionary review to ensure conformance with the overall signage ordinances. And a few other examples here of both monument, upper level, and then sort of mid-level signage as well, and different forms. If you refer to the bottom left example, that's mounted on the facade, and then there's some mounted on the glazing as well. Our proposed signage standard modifications, which include modifications that or edits that we made or revisions that we made in response to various planning commissioners' feedback during the first study session. Again, all of our existing city rules and guidance on sign colors, lighting, and so on would continue to apply and would not be revised as a result of these proposed amendments. What we are seeking to eliminate are those 100 square foot and 50 square foot cap that exists, again, to recognize the overall scale of projects that have much larger or longer street facades. We are imposing or proposing to impose a limit on the maximum sign area on any frontage of 1,000 square feet, regardless of the length of the frontage. So modifying that essentially from that 100 square feet to 1,000 square feet. It's important to note that we do feel it's necessary, just again, given the size of these projects and the fact that there are multiple buildings, that we exempt project identification and directional signage from these limits. So the limits that we're talking about are specifically for identifying the tenants. And so code signage, parking, generally project identity or a monument of sorts that directionally points to where 1300 El Camino is or 1302 El Camino is, and so on, would be exempted. I believe it was Chair Doran who had indicated or raised a potential concern about the formulation of our initial proposal, which wasn't as refined, whereby if we were to remove the caps, there was still a potential for that total allocation of 1,000 square feet being turned into one massive billboard, for example, for a single tenant. And so we've proposed a single sign cap of 50 square feet per commercial sign as well, regardless of what the total allocation is. Again, to ensure that we don't have a cartoon-like or caricature-like billboard sign on any facade. And again, reiterating the fact that regardless of the outcome of the recommendation today and City Council's eventual approval, that each project would still have to come back and present its master signage plan for approval, and then that master signage plan and its associated discretionary approval through this body would then govern the signage application throughout the life of the project. And if anything was to deviate from there, we would again have to come back and make the case as to why the signage plan is being modified. And again, it's worth noting that in the staff report, it's indicated that the proposed revisions are, in terms of allocations, are comparable to the neighboring jurisdictions, and candidly, if not slightly less than what we read in Redwood City and in Palo Alto. I will spare you these calculations. These are specific to Springline, and happy to look at them during the Q&A. And we thought we would just end with a couple of just representative images or mock-ups to indicate a variety of locations and styles of signs, really, that would blend in with the project. And we hope you would agree in a tasteful way, really to help break up the massing and to help identify the variety of tenants that are in these buildings. And again, just showing the difference between the proposed upper floor style of signage, again, just very subtle and blending in with the building, and then the lower retail level signage as well. And here just a preview of our project's proposed massing, which again, we would come back with a formal master sign application to the Planning Commission for approval down the road on. And with that, I just wanted to finish the presentation by stating that we've had a significant amount of outreach, even leading up to that first study session, including numerous discussions with neighbors, both residential and business, with a variety of business groups, the chamber, and most recently actually went and had a stand at several farmers markets to try to engage with the community and folks in the surrounding area and the downtown area to solicit their feedback, and receive very positive support for the proposed modification. And with that, I'll conclude the formal presentation and would like to turn it over to any questions that you may have. And my colleague, Steve, is on the line as well to help answer any technical questions on the proposed ordinance as well.
Thank you. So do we have clarifying questions from the commission at this time? I want to have public comment. We will have a chance for discussion by the commission, but if we have clarifying questions to the applicant, now's the time. Okay. I'm not seeing any, so I would like to open the meeting to public comment. Mr. Pruder, do we have any hands raised?
Thank you, Chair Doran. It appears that we do have one hand raised, so I will let that person speak if you'd like me to do so at this time.
Please do.
All right, and we have a person by the name of Michael Birch, and so I'm going to allow you to speak now, and you'll have 3 minutes to be able to speak. And also, if you could please, when you're able to speak, include obviously your name and then state your jurisdiction as well. And Mr. Birch, you should be able to speak at this time.
Great, thank you very much. My name is Michael Birch. I am with Scott AG. We are the signage designer and consultant for the Middle Plaza project. We've been working through how to get to a good solution on this issue with staff at City of Menlo Park for the past 2.5 years, recognizing that we were not going to be able to accomplish an appropriate level of signage for the mixed use project that is Middle Plaza, with residential project, retail at the plaza space, and 3 office buildings. So we've been working on various signage designs, calculating, kind of formulas, and working through how to get to this point. So we've been, I'm going to say, shadowing the Springline team with trying to get to the bottom of the issues and working with staff to provide information that was helpful to get to this point where we can work, with the Planning Commission and with staff to come up with a reasonable solution. I provided a letter of support for the Springline text amendment. As well, with that letter, we did include sort of a basic massing study for the Middle Plaza project, elevations of the El Camino frontage. We have probably 3 times the frontage on El Camino that the Springline project does, and are really challenged under the current way of looking at things. I hope that in reviewing our elevations, you see a similar light touch of signage on El Camino Real to what you saw in the Springline elevations. If you took a look at our, sort of, as Cyrus sort of slid past the calculations, the boring part, the table, we really can cover our signage in the project at under the 1,000 foot cap proposed, even on 1,600 linear feet of frontage. I think that, the basic sort of disconnect here is that the master sign program process that's typically employed is intended to allocate signage not at a fixed 100 square feet, sort of an arbitrary number, but it's intended to distribute or to allocate signage or allow signage for each tenant that would be a reasonable amount of signage if the tenant were sort of on a single parcel. So that's really the difference, I think, between what I see in Redwood City and Palo Alto and typical master sign program processes, is we just need to get to a good set of rules around a different approach, and incorporating a cap and keeping all of the existing regulations and guidelines in place is key, and hopefully comfortable for the planning commissioners. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have other hands raised, other speakers this time, Mr. Pruder?
We do not at this time. And so if you'd like, we could wait a moment more. As a reminder, folks that would like to speak, press the hand icon or *9 if they're calling by phone, and they can provide public comment.
Yeah, let's give them just a minute. I will note for the record that Commissioner Barnes has joined us. Commissioner Barnes, we're now in the study session on the signage ordinance. So we just heard the applicant's presentation.
Thank you, and my apologies for being delayed.
So no other hands raised, Mr. Puder?
It appears there are no other hands raised, so if you'd like, you may proceed with closing public comment. Thank you.
Yes, I will close public comment and bring it back to the commission for discussion. We don't have a matter to vote on this tonight, but I will bring it back for questions, comments, further discussion. Would anyone like to speak? Commissioner DeCarty.
I have an initial clarifying question for staff. So this is unprecedented. That's why we're looking at this. In attachment A, my question is the parcel that is closer to Santa Cruz Ave, moving up El Camino from the middle project, is the one that has like Big Five and other stores there. That looks like it's a single parcel, and it looks like there are multiple stores that are there with signs. So my question to staff is that not a comp, and is that not precedent in some way, or what is different between that project and this one we're looking at, and then the next one that we just heard about in the comment?
Yeah, that's a good question. Actually, I can look up that maybe information during the meeting. I'm not sure of the specifics of how of the signage for that one. I apologize.
Do we have other commissioners that would like to speak on the subject? Commissioner Riggs.
Thank you. Well, since it's a study session, I do want to throw out a handful of items that I think should inform how we structure this revised regulation. Or at this point, it's more how we should fine tune it. As I mentioned at our October meeting, it didn't actually get listed on page 2 of the staff report, but I made a rather specific comment about limiting top of building signage in a different manner than overall building signage, because we don't want to clutter and overemphasize what we see from a distance, which is also what we see of the building for the longest period of time. I do realize that Mr. Sanadaji has a similar concern, but here we're codifying it for people who don't necessarily have that concern. As an example, we were asked, it's now I think called the Noosphere building, and it was one of the slides that the applicant showed us a moment ago. The end of that building that faces south has a humongous building address. I guess it's 1706. That and 1906 were approximately the same period of development. And the pitch at the time was, gee, we've got a vacant building and we need to have some kind of presence, and we don't have any tenants, but let's at least put up a great big address number. And I think that was an error. what we've seen in the images proposed for 1300 just now, one that we referred to as a perspective proposal with 4 images of what the signage might be at Springline, that was very subtle and very attractive, and in part because of color. The colors chosen were all actually pulled from the existing building palette. I don't know that, well, I don't think that should be necessary. I think if a company comes in, say Bank of America, their sign is going to be blue and red. I mean, that's what their signage is. So the impact will be different. So again, in fine tuning this, not for Springline, but for what will happen as tenants come and go, and as we apply this potentially to other buildings. For example, when 700 El Camino might get rebuilt as a 3-story building rather than a 1-story strip center. We want to keep in mind it's not merely the size that is the issue. So I hope we can codify that in some way beyond the fact that we, put limits on bright red and bright yellow. This is slightly aside of tonight's rules, but if through the chair, if I could ask staff, do we, in the current ordinance, address flashing lights or moving images? And for those of you who have come up El Camino from Palo Alto or have come down Ravenswood to El Camino, you have seen Mountain Mike's now has a frantic color display along its top and then outlining its windows. I would guess probably 4 color changes per second. And I can just imagine if that were ever, well, I'm having enough trouble imagining just seeing it one more time again on Mountain Mike's if we had to see it on a 300 lineal foot building. I think we'd all develop mental problems. So anyway, sorry. So I was going to ask staff if we had any existing regulation about flashing lights or moving lights.
Yeah, through the chair, yeah. Flashing lights, moving lights, those are not permitted. And so I was alerted to this issue with this building on El Camino earlier tonight, and we'll follow up with code enforcement.
Oh, that's terrific. Great, thank you. And then again, in terms of fine tuning, it is suggested that there be a budget every 100 foot of frontage, but that it be rounded up at 150 feet. So it sounds as though a building with 150 foot frontage or a portion of a building would be allowed to have double the signage that we were anticipating on the 100 foot frontage. So I'm not sure that's exactly how we would want to do it. Perhaps we would say, starting at 150 feet, you could have 50% more. But I personally would just feel more comfortable if it didn't jump to double. And I'm particularly open to staff's response to that. And then the exemption for parking and wayfinding signage. I think I understand what is intended and what was written in the narrative that was attachment B. And for those since it wasn't titled, for those who wondered, attachment B was authored by the applicant. So it would be nice to have it codified that the parking signage will not say, for example, Data House parking here. And with the Data House logo and the Data House colors. So just to clarify that. Also to clarify, since we have the, again, submitted by the applicant, the, I'll call it sheet 5 of attachment C. It's not labeled as attachment C, but it comes between B and D. So I'm calling it that. Although there's a green line indicating frontage, that the courtyard frontages are not part of the formula. I'm pretty sure it was not intended that they be, but I just wanted to clarify that. Then on page 7 of the staff report, I guess this is an overall comment. And I didn't print that, so I would have to look on the screen. But page 7 prompts the commission to consider some directives. Thank you for posting that. So these 3 bullet points are the proposed formulas for calculating signage generally supported? Then should a master plan signage, a signage master plan be presented? And then should office tenant signage limitations be based on this proposal, one sign per 100 square feet with a jump at 150? I appreciate that those are 3 points of feedback that staff need. I would like to humbly ask in return that staff who are full-time and qualified and assigned to this project give us their considered and informed opinion on these issues, because we do in Menlo Park have particularly good staff. It's one of the things that I'm pleased to talk about in terms of Menlo Park compared with some of the other towns. And I, for one, would very much like to hear the professional input of our staff. And then finally, just because I don't really want to grab and nobody wants me to grab the microphone a second time, I will say again, thank you to the Springline Group for doing this work and putting this proposal forward. Notwithstanding any fine tuning that I might want to recommend, I think it is it's just plain a contribution to Menlo Park for you to do this for us, where in 2.5 years, we have not been able to do it due to other pressures. So thank you.
Thank you. Before I ask staff if they would like to express their opinion, I want to give Mr. Atkinson an opportunity to respond to some of your comments. He was looking very eager to speak a few minutes ago, so I'd like to call on him and see what he's got to say.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Steve Atkinson from Errant Fox for the Springline project. If I can address a couple of questions I think that Commissioner Riggs had. One was about I believe when he was referring to the 100 and 150. So that refers to the part of the proposal that deals with the limitations on office signage. And if you reviewed the letter regarding the Middle Plaza project, they actually proposed a slightly different calculation for that limitation, which is basically to take the frontage, multiply it by 1%, and then multiply that by 50, okay? And for the Springline project, it ends up coming up with a very similar number to what we're doing. And having looked at that, but it works a little bit better for Middle Plaza because of the unique configuration for their project. So we're prepared to go with that alternative formula, which means you don't get the big jump up due to rounding. It's just a multiplication of the length of the frontage. And again, for the Springline project, that would result in approximately 4 50-square-foot signs on the El Camino frontage. So I hope that addresses your question, Commissioner. And in terms of the well, that was certainly the main question that I wanted to address in particular. And certainly if there are other details of the plan, I'd be happy to address those also.
Thank you. I'd like to see if Ms. Sandmeyer wants to respond to Commissioner Riggs' request for staff's opinion on this ordinance.
Yes. Let's see. So there are a couple of questions. I think the main thing is staff is generally supportive of the applicant's proposal. Based on what we've seen, the massing study the applicant provided, what Middle Plaza provided, and also comparing neighboring jurisdictions or nearby jurisdictions with similar downtowns, also along the El Camino Real corridor. Yeah, I hope that helps.
Thank you. So I would actually like to remind the commission that staff has asked that on these study sessions that we hear from everyone on their opinions on the proposal. It helps them in their work. So I'm going to respond to these bullet points that Commissioner Riggs mentioned a minute ago. First one, the proposed formulas for calculating signage generally supported. I do support them. Second, should a master plan, sign plan be required for projects? I am in favor of master plan. And I think a unified look is important for a big project like this that could have a lot of signs. On the third bullet point, I think that the Middle Plaza consultant solution addresses the concern of Commissioner Riggs, and it seems that suggestion is also supported by Springline now. So I would favor that formulation rather than the sort of jump at 150 feet. I think that's really all I have to say on the ordinance. I support the proposed ordinance. Do we have other commissioners that would like to voice their opinions now? Commissioner Riccardi.
I'll defer to Commissioner Kennedy and go next.
Thank you, Commissioner Riccardi. I'm generally supportive of the ordinance. I do think that there's some challenges though, and just I think like challenges in quotes around signage and brand alignment. Commissioner Riggs brought up the Bank of America, sign, right? Which I think generally it's better to have a cohesive, cohesive signage elements, sort of in that bigger scope, and then where a company's brand and their logo are sometimes intertwined, having that more at a smaller level, right? Because I think what Commissioner Riggs was getting at, and I could be mistaken, is that there could be pushback from larger corporate clients or corporate entities saying, well, our signage is our brand, right? And so what's the wiggle room that we have so that we don't have a gigantic Bank of America or Mountain Mike's or Pizza Hut or Athleta, for that matter, sort of overtaking our streetscape. But in general, I think this is a great conversation.
Thank you. Commissioner Riccardi.
I had a couple of follow-up questions and then some comments you mentioned. So first of all, thank you for coming back again, and really appreciate that you heard disparate comments from all of us last time, have addressed those, and just to echo the thanks of Commissioner Riggs and others for sort of carrying the water on that for us as a community. Your commitment to the community as you took over this project is evident. It's going to be great. So thank you. You talked about the public outreach and being at the market on Thursdays. How many people did you end up talking with? Like what are the, when you track those things, how many people gave you feedback about, and can you characterize that in some way?
Commissioner Cardy, we, at both farmers markets, there's roughly about 1,000 people that were there, as you can imagine. Approaching folks who are there to pick up produce and so on is not the easiest. And so we're at least not in an election cycle, so they didn't think we're harassing them for donations or anything. But we had somewhere between 5 to 10 conversations. Most were at each one, and most were at a very sort of casual level. There were a few folks who actually engaged with my colleagues who were there and had a much deeper conversation and sort of appreciated the need for uniquely identifying each of the retailers, and then were candidly much more focused on what the future retailers, who they are and what they're going to be, and how fun downtown is going to be, and the fact that they were at the Bon Marché, for example, farmers market, that they wanted to see downtown liven up. And so the conversation quickly went there. This is rather technical. This is a rather technical topic when we start talking about these ratios and formulas and so on. So the conversations, were what you would expect them to be, which is sort of for the general part at a more superficial level, but very supportive.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I also appreciated in your presentation that you gave a summary that was excellent about sort of the history of signage and the guidance that's already in place in other parts of the town or had been in place before. In one of those, it said that in general, signage should be, this is height, from 8 to 18 inches. And that 24 inches only in the circumstances with very large setbacks. And so I just wondered how you sort of think about that with in the presentation, and then in attachment, I guess it's the one that's not labeled, but C, that, for example, in the upper floors, it looks like you're at a 30 inches by 20 feet sign. So I wonder just how you think about that as being aligned with the history of guidance, number one. And then number two, I guess I would point out that your last slide that you showed us, which is sort of the street view looking at the project, which looks fantastic, is actually not a view anybody will ever have. That perspective is way off. I'd be in the bay of the auto shop across the street. And so I find that actually a misrepresentation and kind of misleading, and don't think that's helpful for getting to a resolution on this. So I wondered if you could also talk about that, because I think it is important that the viewing of signage that is large makes sense if you are far away, but signs up against that building, you're not ever going to be that far away. So I would love it if you could just sort of talk about why that's so important and why that sizing, given that history and the consideration of distance.
So if I understand your question, in sort of two parts. One, as it relates to, and could we perhaps just put up the presentation one more time so I can confirm the slide Commissioner DeCarty was looking at. I believe if you're referring to the slide that was the plant, that was the elevation with the green, that's simply highlighting general area as to where signage would go, not the size of the sign. If you recall, one of our proposals was to limit any one individual sign to 50 square feet in and of itself. And so the per sign, so we would have a single sign cap of 50 square feet. So we couldn't have a sign that's 30 inches by 20 feet long. Like that just, that the square footage wouldn't work. So
Appreciate that. Thank you.
if I can, and then I think you're referencing, sorry, I'm trying to get control of the screen. Thank you. I think you're referencing this view.
Yep.
Yeah, this is our hero shot from our marketing. We didn't put this together for tonight, but we wanted to use this to show generally the location of what we're talking about. And in fact, if you sort of recount what you actually see, there's some massive trees here that reach up to the third floor. So it's going to be very challenging for you to see any of these signs from the pedestrian scale or from the vehicular scale going north or south on El Camino. Because that foliage is going to be blocking it. So I think the point here was more so to show that what we're talking about in terms of signage is not suddenly a big smattering. This is really more to address the Times Square comment or concern, or the Las Vegas comment or concern from the first study session, which is that, are we going to suddenly end up with hodgepodge of signs everywhere, and it was rather, and so that was really the intent of this sign. So I hope that clarifies, and this is more appropriate of the view that you would see, and that's why we even use the sort of fisheye on the iPhone to sort of show if you're really walking by and you're staring up, this is what you're looking at here at each one of these retail entries. So
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. You still could have a 2 foot by 10 foot. Anyway, you can still have a very large sign up there, though. If you're looking at a 50 square foot window.
Right, and again, we needed to come up with something that would just create that cap at a single sign level, and that's what we came up with, the 50 feet, 50 square feet limit per sign.
All right, so well, I appreciate that. So in general, just to address the three questions, I really appreciate all the work you've done, and I feel like you're working hard to be able to make this work for the city. I'll preface my belief on this. I think one of the things that we're going to end up having is a city with a lot more density downtown. We have to, for all sorts of reasons, in order to have more equitable housing, in order to meet our needs, frankly, in order to have a vibrant downtown. And one of the things that's going to run up against is people feeling concerned about missing the look and feel of a smaller community. And I think signage plays a big part in that. And I think, frankly, the signage we currently have around our community is a mess and is a hodgepodge and is a distraction. So I just want to be clear that I am biased in that way. So I think in general, you're headed in the right direction, but I think it's too big. I think the signage that is allowed up high is too big. I absolutely support individual storefronts being able to have their signs. And I think the formulation in the third bullet, that as a sort of progression as opposed to coming to a point and then popping up, all makes sense. So in general, I think this is all heading in the right direction. Yes, there should be a master plan. And yes, you have come down from what you said before, but frankly, I still think it's too much. And it's for those reasons. So, and then I think as this goes forward, to staff would really appreciate thoughtfulness to Mr. Riggs's points about perspective and point of view. It would be great to hear from our professional staff in detail. It would be great to get an understanding of the history with that Big Five property and what precedent is in that. And it would also be helpful, I mean, on the apples to apples, it is not simple to be able to immediately distinguish between the information as it's put together in Palo Alto and in Redwood City and the neighboring jurisdictions. So as much as I appreciate that you got that information, it is not straightforward to do those comparisons for someone in our position, or at least in my position as a volunteer and trying to help out and do my part for the city. So I think that also would be helpful for staff as this moves forward and as city council is considering to be able to look at apples to apples in those comparisons. So that's my input for tonight. And again, thanks to everybody for their effort here.
Thank you. Do we have other commissioners who want to speak now? Commissioner Barnes.
As a matter of process, this is a study session. So normally I wouldn't be able to join in and participate in a vote on something, but am I allowed as a late entry into this to participate?
I think so. Unless I hear some objections from our parliamentarian, there is no vote, so I don't see why you should be precluded from expressing your opinions.
Thank you for that. And to my fellow commissioners, my day job kept me late on a work meeting, so I'm going to try not to have anyone repeat themselves, but thank you for allowing me to join late. I do have a question on the second bullet point for Planning Commission considerations, and the question asks, a master sign plan would allow Planning Commission to review a specific project signage to ensure a cohesive look. And I'd love to hear a little bit more in terms of the extent to which that is discretionary or contemplated to be discretionary. And if so, a general idea of what's the latitude for discretion or not as it relates to that.
Yeah, I think, sorry.
Please, go ahead.
Yeah, through the chair. I think it would definitely be discretionary, kind of the way I'm thinking of it now. Certainly if the commission has feedback about specific kind of parameters they would like to see, that would restrict what a future planning commission could approve. That would definitely be helpful to staff. I think, yeah, it's wide open at this point. And just to get back to the previous question about the Big Five property, so that's the 700 to 800 El Camino Real. We looked it up. It does have a conditional development permit for that property. However, it doesn't appear that it has special signage allowances. So one thing to keep in mind that the signage along the El Camino Real frontage is the only signage that would be limited to the 100 square feet, that commercial signage. Any signage within the kind of adjacent to the driveway, just facing private property, would not be limited. And it is certainly possible that they are over the limit. We would have to do an inventory to make sure all the signs were permitted. But I think that might be kind of one point of confusion, that it appears they have a lot of signage if you walk into the driveway and look at all the signage for each individual business. So I hope that helps a little bit.
So if I can, through the chair, I'm sorry, allow me to re-ask my question. I wasn't clear about the answer there. So the question we're being asked is, the master plan will allow the Planning Commission to review a specific project signage to ensure a cohesive look. So we have Project A. Project A has, as part of its project plan, has signage on it. I guess to lead out on that, one of my concerns would be is that I don't want to see a lot of discretion that relies on personal opinion and the changing of particular planning commissioners. I would prefer to see some consistency and some transparency in the process, which says, if you do X, Y, and Z, this is the process for getting approved. And if you're outside of the bounds and it's discretionary, much like a use permit, sure, let's have that discussion. So my concern is about the level of discretion or the lack of consistency, transparency, a roadmap for someone to know what is acceptable in Menlo Park for signage and what is not, and how much that is discretionary to the planning commission, liking certain colors or whomever's on the planning commission at a given period of time. So allow me to re-ask that question, the level of discretion that's being contemplated.
Well, so I think it was mentioned in the applicant's presentation, the design guidelines are fairly strict currently. For example, the flashing lights, that's not permitted. That's a previous question that was asked. If they're, so the way the draft ordinance is written now, any signage that goes beyond the 100-foot cap that's currently allowed would require a master sign program. And that would always have to go to the planning commission for discretionary review. So there wouldn't be, none of the signs under the new proposed language would be approved at staff level. And then if the commission now would like to add specific parameters to future reviews of master sign programs, for example, more restrictive colors or anything like that than what's in the current design guidelines, that would be helpful for us to know. I think the way it's contemplated now, there could be allowances for a master sign program to allow something that's currently, the design guidelines currently say is not recommended. But for the, certainly the planning commission could tonight provide advice that a master sign program should be limited to the design guidelines and then reviewed in conformance and to make sure everything looks as a cohesive look. So I hope that helps.
It does, thank you. And since it's a study session, I'll opine on that. My preference is that there's a pre-check as it comes in and does it conform with the master plan. And we are queried when what is being proposed goes outside of that box. When there is, for whatever reason, it's much like a use permit, we have a box. If it's that box, you're good to go. If it's not that box, for whether it's font or whether it's color or whatever it is, then sure, we've got the ability to weigh in and see if it's appropriate, much like a use permit. Is it deleterious to the local community? I mean, that's kind of the benchmark. So I would prefer something which is prescriptive and which is clear and which is transparent so people can get on with their business. And then if it's outside the box, that's whomever's on a planning commission at that period of time can weigh in at that period of time about what their predilections are. So thank you, that's my input.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else who would like to speak? Commissioner Tate?
Yes, I agree with Commissioner Barnes in that respect. But when it comes down to company logos, I think Commissioner Kennedy, excuse me, kind of hit it that, limited in scale would be great instead of like Bank of America has been our example, like a huge Bank of America sign, like, scaled down some, sort of like in a planned community.
Thank you. I think Commissioner Riggs is next.
Thank you. I also would like to add my voice to Commissioner Barnes' call for making our regulations as specific as possible and frankly limiting how much discretion this body would have. And so I realize that there are risks because it's difficult to anticipate anything that we might find was a mistake, something slipped through. But I guess we do the best we can. And if it helps, perhaps we might say that the something like maybe the main variable that we have to be concerned with is color, and we've previously been concerned about bright red and bright yellow, maybe we should start with that it's a non-discretionary issue if the colors come from the base colors of the building, not, some small amount of trim, or white, and that if more color or a particular lighting of the signage is desired, that would then come for discretionary review. So I throw that out as a sample idea.
Thank you. Commissioner Harris?
Thank you. So I'm going to agree with Commissioner Barnes and some of the other commissioners. I'd like to keep the rules consistent and clear and simple enough that it's easier for the developers to execute them, and it's easier for staff to go back and check, and would not need a lot of oversight by the Planning Commission. I'd also like it to be reasonable, for setting up Menlo Park businesses for success. Especially as we're looking to add new retail in an area where it's already retail environment's already difficult. I want to not be so onerous that new retail has issues. I guess I would come down on the side of not restricting brands to change the color of their logos. But maybe if we did have an overall size, then that would kind of get at what Commissioner Kennedy and some others have said. And I know we had the 50-foot sign, and some people, it seems like, are okay with that or not. But I would like to come down on the side that we are pretty consistent, so that we don't have future planning commissions saying, well, I don't really like the red in your logo. Can you make it white? That doesn't feel great to me. Thanks.
Thank you. I'd like to just add my own view. Mr. Kennedy, I will get to you in a moment. On this idea of a master sign plan required for projects, I think the master sign plan is a good idea. I didn't see that as a way out of the restrictions that are proposed in the ordinance. I don't think that a master sign plan should allow larger signs or more signs. My view of my concept of what a master sign plan would do would be to ensure a cohesive look for development. So you wouldn't have a riot of different types of signs and flashing colors close together, things like that. That's what I think a master sign plan should be. I think the rules themselves should be prescriptive. I'm a believer in bright line rules. I think it does make it easier for applicants to plan and makes things more consistent and more fair. In response to the question about colors, I think I agree more with Commissioner Harris than with Commissioner Riggs. I'm concerned about the size of the signs much more than I am about the color. And if retailers have the color scheme that's part of their branding, I certainly wouldn't want to require them to use a different color. Commissioner Kennedy, I think you were wanting to speak.
Yeah, I think so. This, I appreciate this conversation. It's actually right at my alley. So I think there's a challenge, like there's a disconnect, because a company's brand is not their sign. Their brand is typically their logo, and the logo and their sign are totally different things. I think for a lot of companies, their signage takes up so much space that you think it's their logo, but it's not their logo. And so if this is a signage ordinance, and it's a signage ordinance about the name of the company that we're talking about, it is not their designed logo. So for example, if we are going to place rules around both size, I think we also have, may have to also take into account the variety of colors that signs typically come in, because signs do double duty as a logo for a company, right? So here, for an example, Lululemon. Lululemon, their sign says Lululemon, but their brand is that weird little thing, like a Sigma or something. That's their logo. Bank of America, they have the Bank of America sign that often has their logo embedded in it. And I think it would be really challenging to have an enormous sign with part of a logo embedded in it. So what the applicant has sort of talked about tonight are just words, no logos. At least I haven't seen any logos in any of the signage that has appeared on the screen tonight. And I feel like that's what we're discussing. It becomes something much more muddled and something a little less, what's the word I'm looking for? Controllable, when the sign has the size of something and then you're like, oh, well, I could just stick my logo in there as well. And then it becomes something other. I might have digressed a little bit, but I just don't want to see us, be positive on saying, an ordinance is proactive and we can get some bigger signage up, but then all of a sudden we've got these gigantic logos floating around at the tops of buildings that are just atrocious.
Thank you. Commissioner Tate, I'll get to you in a moment, but I do want to give the applicant a chance to speak. He's got his hand raised. I'd like to give him a chance to respond, Mr. Sandaji.
Thank you, Chair Dorn. Commissioner Kennedy, I just wanted to clarify that we don't have a specific tenant or set of tenants. This wasn't a presentation on our proposed master signage plan, and so we kept everything generic. That's the only reason we had sort of lettering there, but I would just distinguish that from our perspective, signage is a combination of the mark, which I think you're referencing as the logo, and the name. So if you were to look at Phil's Coffee around the corner, right by the train station, that is a perfect example of a retail sign. That is their logo actually, and that's the use of the mark and their name, and that's exactly what we're proposing for these signs.
Right, but that's different from like high up above on El Camino. If there was a gigantic Allstate, like it was Allstate and then the gigantic logo as well, like that would be a little gaudy. But
and I agree completely. And I think the clarification I was just going to make is that with regards to, I think this was a concern that Chair Dorn had mentioned as well about size too, which is that I think what we have to also keep in mind is that as the developer, especially on a large linear frontage style building like this, and where we have, as an example, we're talking to a tenant that if we're successful, will take 700 square feet. And think of this either as like a flower kiosk or a, gelato, frozen yogurt type place, or, a grab and go, right? It's a tiny space relative to another that may take 10,000 square feet, but still needs that same identification. And so we need to be really cognizant. And so we can't just proportionately say you get, 1/10 of this. So if one gets 50, you get, 5 square feet. There's sort of, we're going to have to rationalize the allocation of our total signage allocation across the entire project as well. And so one thing I would just say is that projects like ours or Middle Plaza are going to be self-governing anyway and judicious about the use of the allocation that we have, because we need to maintain flexibility such that, for example, if one of our larger proposed restaurant tenants goes under and doesn't work out for whatever reason, and we end up having to demise that space into 3 as opposed to using it as 1, we can't now suddenly go and strip signage off of everyone else or suddenly shrink signage down because, and so I would just say that I wouldn't, it's easy for me to say, but I would just say, rest assured that from what we will propose to you will demonstrate as part of our signage plan that there's ample flexibility for future demising of these of these retail suites. And the reason why we proposed this restriction and then agreed with Stanford's sort of revised formula for the upper level is that we don't really envision more than 2 signs really on any one facade at the upper floor anyway. And we have the 50 square foot cap on that as well. So really in terms of where the majority of our signage is going, it's going to be on the ground floor when you've got the one on each corner, upper floor sign for the office tenants. The rest is really going to be located on the ground level and really is meant to identify these retailers who are going to have signage, like the Lululemon example that you gave, which is sort of their mark and name, that comprise their logo from an identity standpoint.
Yeah, all right, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Tate.
Well, I think the applicant covered what I was going to say in response to Commissioner Kennedy when he made the example of Phil's Coffee, because like that is their logo and that is their name. Like I didn't mean when I said logo, what I was talking about is brand recognition, and companies will want to advertise or have on the building whatever is they use as their marketing tool.
Thank you. Commissioner Harris.
Yeah, I guess I wanted to echo that. There are going to be some that their mark is the name and like FedEx, and there are others where it's going to be a symbol. So I just don't think that we can say what you can, whether you can have your logo or not. I really come back to having the size be appropriate. Thanks.
Thank you. Do we have any other commissioners? Commissioner Barnes.
And thank you. And as it relates to size, and from my vantage point, having gone through the presentation as included in the packet, the sizing and the placement of this signage does not appear to be out of context at all for the buildings, nor out of context for El Camino Real. I mean, it is a commercial corridor. Businesses need signage. So aesthetically, I think it works. And then from is less than this going to put Menlo Park businesses at a disadvantage? I don't think we need more, but I think this is appropriate for Menlo Park businesses locating in Menlo Park to have a fair shake in terms of you've got an opportunity to locate your business at Stanford Mall. You've got an opportunity to go down to Redwood City. You've got an opportunity to be on University Avenue in Palo Alto. I think we owe it to our businesses, if we agree with the aesthetics, and I agree with the aesthetics here in the context of the size of the building, to provide a playing field where businesses can survive in our community. So I don't have any problem with the sizing of the scientists contemplated here.
Thank you. So unless anyone else wishes to speak further, I want to ask Ms. Sandmeyer if we've given staff enough input for the study session. If there's any specific questions you would like us to address that we've not. You're on mute.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think most of our questions have been addressed. To respond, I think Commissioner DeCardi asked earlier about more specific comparisons, and I did some very rough estimates just for the spring line project along the El Camino Real frontage. Just looking at Palo Alto's requirements for wall signage limits and freestanding signs, it looks like along the ECR frontage, spring line could have about 550 or 560 square feet if it was in Palo Alto and along El Camino Real, which is similar to the proposed ordinance, which allows about 540. And then in Redwood City, if the spring line had the same frontage along El Camino Real, but was outside the precise plan, it would be allowed about 685 square feet of signage, very roughly, which is larger than the 540 that would be permitted through the proposed amendments. And within the Redwood City downtown precise plan, quite a bit more signage would be permitted with different types of signage as outlined in the staff report. So I don't know if that helps a little or leads to more questions or comments. That would be helpful too. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that clarification, and also for a little bit more information about the property where the Big Five is. I just think that information would be helpful in the packet as this goes forward. And next time, I know, is this going to City Council. So great to hear it, and potentially for everybody to be able to see it.
Thank you. Commissioner Harris.
Sorry, one more time. I've been trying to keep track of all of the comments that that Commissioner Riggs made earlier, because I wanted to make sure that we kind of addressed all of them. And as we've all said, we really would like the rules to be kind of consistent and easy to follow. And so we don't, end up making a lot of judgments later. And I think the only one that we didn't really discuss was, if you don't mind, I'd like to say what you said, Commissioner Riggs, which was that whether the building signage should be different at the top of the building versus but the side of the building. And I'm wondering if we kind of just, if some other people wanted to talk a little bit about that, and maybe that also might help Commissioner DeCarty feel better about sort of the size of the signage. So anyway, I would be interested to hear other commissioners speak on that, or maybe we're all okay with it. Thanks.
Commissioner Tate.
In my opinion, the side of the building should be smaller.
Anyone else? Commissioner Kennedy, were you raising your hand or just adjusting your camera? Okay. Would anyone else like to speak? Commissioner Riggs?
I'd just like to ask Commissioner Tate to clarify. I thought you said the side of the building signage should be smaller. Is that in response to my suggestion that the signage at the top of the building, which typically is used by a major tenant to identify that building as, this is us, that it not have as many square feet as my thought was, that it not add up to as many square feet as the dozen tenants that are on the first floor that all get their own signs. So were you responding to that?
Yes. Excuse me, and I also look at it as the side of the building. Like if we're putting together something to go forward, to use as a guide, the side of the building may very well be on a residential street. And I don't think that the signs need to be huge for the major tenant on the side of the building, like you said.
Thank you. Commissioner Barnes.
Thank you for that. And again, apologies, I'm coming late to the discussion. When we say side of the building, what do we mean by that? What would determine what the front is and what the side is? Is it by entry? Is it by what? Just help me understand that a little bit.
Maybe we could ask Ms. Sandmeyer if she could shed some light on that. With residential properties, there's always a designated front, side, and rear. But with commercial properties, I'm not sure it's so clear.
Yeah, I think the way the draft ordinance is written, El Camino would be considered the front, is kind of the way I think of it, since that frontage is allowed more signage. I think the idea of allowing less signage on upper floors or smaller signage that sounds completely reasonable. And I think some cities do have those type of regulations, especially since retail tenants are usually at the first floor, and that way the building can become a little more pedestrian scale where someone walks down the street and sees signage. So if that's useful to hear that some commissioners support that idea or would like that idea to be included in the ordinance.
Through the chair, and I apologize, as I was trying to track this particular point, upper floors and sides of the buildings seem to be used interchangeably. Are we working with the upper floors issue, or are we working with the side of the building issue? And aren't those two different things?
Yeah, through the chair, I think I was kind of having the same thought that Commissioner Barnes just brought up. If I could get clarification from the commissioners, if the concern is more that it's along a secondary frontage or even a third frontage in the case of Springline, or if it's more the concern that along El Camino Real, the preference is not to have large sign or to have smaller signs for upper floors. So that would be helpful.
Well, I suppose I'll kick that off. I think in this zoning district, it is a commercial district, and I'm less concerned with what Commissioner Tate expressed about the side, the secondary frontage, maybe I'll think of it, being smaller. I think that all sides of this parcel are going to be commercial, and I think that's generally true of this downtown specific plan. So I'm not as concerned about the side issue. I personally think that the proposed size limitations on the upper floors actually make sense to me. I think about when I'm driving down the street and you see an office building and you've got the major tenant, the anchor tenant, they've got their sign on the top floor. I think that what's in the proposal is reasonable to accommodate that kind of signage. I don't find that offensive as a driver or a pedestrian. That's my view. But we'll see if other commissioners want to express a view on that. Anyone?
Yeah, I don't need to, I'll just say I'm happy to be an outlier here. I question the need for signage on upper floors at all. And I question the total amount of space. I'm fine with colors. I don't want flashing lights. I think a community and I think businesses can do great with signage that is well placed, well designed, attractive, and with the sight lines that are necessary in order for people to be able to find them and also to associate them with that address. That's just what I believe. So I'm very happy to be an outlier, but and I appreciate the thoughtfulness in the conversation throughout this evening, but I am unconvinced about the need at all for upper level signage around in downtown. We're not up against a highway where we're trying to get people's attention so they can hop off and come use a business in that kind of way. And I think that's puts us in a pathway for a type of downtown as we have increased density where this is going to become more of a problem.
Thank you. Do we have other commissioners that want to speak? Okay, I'm not seeing any, so I think we might have said what we have to say on this issue. I'm going to close the study session this time, move on to the next item on our agenda. Thank you very much to the applicant, by the way. Very thoughtful work.
Thank you, commissioners. Really appreciate your insight here. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thanks. So the next item on our agenda is regular business. This is a review of the draft 2022 Planning Commission meeting dates. We actually have a staff report on this by Ms. Sandmeyer, but importantly, it has the actual dates. So hopefully people have had a chance to look at that calendar. And I think, if we have issues, if people have travel planned or whatever, this is the time to speak on that. Ms. Sandmeyer, did you want to say anything beyond what was in the staff report and the calendar that you submitted?
Yeah, I don't think there's much more to say. Basically, we're just looking for known conflicts so we can figure out if there wouldn't be a quorum. If we know that now, that's helpful. And then the commission can either take a vote or just provide individual feedback.
So hopefully we can get to a vote so we can actually approve a calendar. That'll be my goal. Commissioner Harris.
Yeah, so my question is, do we know if and when we'll be in person? And if we are in person, will we have the ability to also, like if some people want to still be virtual? I want to make sure that because I know for me, if I look at this calendar, there are some dates that I could make it but I'm going to be out of town, but I could still make it if it's online. But if I need to be physically in Menlo Park, then there are some other dates that I cannot make.
So I will ask Ms. Sandmeyer to speak on that, but prior to COVID, you were permitted to attend virtually. They had some more stringent rules about it, and you had to give notice of where you were going to be. It was a little bit more cumbersome, but there was at least some provision for participating remotely. I'll ask Ms. Sandmeyer to comment, but I think it's just not known yet. I don't think we know when we're going to be in person again yet. Ms. Sandmeyer?
Yeah, that's correct. We don't know yet. I think the city council is operating under a kind of a hybrid situation right now, with some council members being remote and some in the council chambers. But I don't know what the rules will be going forward. Those could change, requiring all commissioners to be present or not. So I think it's helpful to know dates when commissioners are not in the office. And because this is a regular business item, I think it may be useful to open it to public comment. I don't think, usually there's no comments, but it may be just useful to open it just in case.
Okay, well, let's do that at this time then. If anyone would like to speak on our calendar for next year, this is your opportunity to do so. Mr. Pruder, could you have a look and see if we have any hands raised from the public?
Thank you, Chair Doran. At this time, I do not see any hands raised, but members of the public are welcome to press their hand icon on the Zoom interface or press *9 if they're calling by phone, and we can wait a moment longer in case any attendees.
Let's give them an opportunity if there are any members of the public still present. Do we have any hands raised?
We do not at this time, so if you'd like, you're welcome to close public comment. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to close public comment, bring it back to the commission, to the dais. I will say for Commissioner Harris's benefit, the rules for participating remotely prior to COVID were very strict. There was an interpretation of the Brown Act that said that we had to publish in the agenda where we would be taking the call from remotely. And, if that were a hotel in New York, that you had to post a sign in the lobby saying that there'd be a public meeting in room 2140, which as I understand, not too many people availed themselves the opportunity to attend in room 2140, but it always seemed a little bit overzealous in their interpretation of the Brown Act to me. And I sincerely hope that whenever we're able to go back to attending meetings in person, that we don't go back to the old rules. I think a lot of workplaces are going to rethink their rules about remote working, and I hope that the state will reconsider the rules for participating remotely. But we don't know. I think the real answer is we don't know.
And that was one of the reasons why I asked.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Do we have commissioners that would like to comment on specific dates or on the calendar? So Commissioner Barnes.
Well, I am going to put a motion on the floor to approve the calendar. Of course, looking for other comments from the commissioners, but for me, it's a fine calendar, and I'll look for any other conflicts. Look to hear from any other conflicts. I will say, in addition to that, I enjoy being in person. I miss the in-person meetings. I miss everything about being in person and reviewing the project and being with my fellow commissioners and with the applicants and the public. So my hope is that we return to that. I certainly prefer that. I don't know how a hybrid would work. And I know that's what we're discussing with this particular agenda item, but it would be difficult if some people opted to be remote and some people opted to be in person. I think that'd be challenging. So I can't wait till we get back, assuming that other people want to get back too. And with that, I'll make a motion to approve the calendar as presented.
I will second that.
Okay. Well, before I call the roll, I just want to reflect on that. I totally agree with Commissioner Barnes. I miss being in person. I think that, I don't know, there's something about actually meeting in a room that I think is better for our own interaction, better for the public as well. So I definitely endorse that view. Does anyone else want to speak on this before we take a vote? Are there any particular dates that are a problem for anyone? Okay, I'm not seeing.
Yeah, no, I do. I would imagine that prior to going back in person, there would be significant discussion, both, at staff level, at city council level, and here amongst the commissioners, because for some, like myself included, who has kids, getting childcare for almost every planning commission meeting that would happen in person, because for some reason there's been enough Monday differences where we've switched, whereas we're now in a totally lopsided, for me, monthly schedule for the Mondays that we have commission meetings. So I would push now to have the remote option in perpetuity.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone else want to speak before I go to the vote? Commissioner Harris.
Well, two things. One is I would love to have the remote option, only so that if I were out of town, I still might be able to participate. And as Chair Doran, you said, hopefully we'll have a little bit less strict rules around that. And I really look forward to being in person, maybe at some point in the future, and actually seeing all of you in 3 dimensions. And then finally, were you actually asking for dates that we already know we can't make it, or you're not asking for that, right?
Well, if people have dates like that, I think we can address that now, especially if it looks like so many people have a problem with the date that we wouldn't have a quorum.
Okay, well, I just have one, 5/23.
That's my date also.
Okay.
And my preference would be to have hybrid meetings.
Okay. Let me first ask Ms. Sandmeyer what our flexibility is around. We had the following week as a holiday, I guess it's Memorial Day. If we weren't to have a meeting on the 23rd, would it be feasible to, I think we'd either have to have 2 meetings in a row, the 9th and 16th, or we'd have to have June 6th and 13th.
Yeah, it looks like June 6th is a religious holiday, so we couldn't have it on that day. So it would be the 9th and the 16th.
Yeah. Well, with 2 commissioners absent, we could still have a quorum if everyone else can make it. We would have 5. So unless I hear objections, I think maybe we can proceed to a vote on the motion to approve the calendar. And if it looks like we don't have a quorum when we get to the date, we can address the problem then. So I would like to take a vote. Commissioner Barnes,
Yes.
Ducardi,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes, thank you.
Kennedy,
Yes.
Riggs,
Yes.
Tate.
Yes.
I'll vote in favor as well. We have 7-0 in favor. So the next item is informational items. Ms. Sandmeyer, do you have informational items, additional items to tell us?
Yeah, so the next meeting with the new Planning Commission calendar will be January 10th. So we haven't finalized the items that will be on there. But that notice will be going out in a week or 2. So yeah, that concludes my updates, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, just to remind everyone, next week, the meeting that was scheduled for December 20th has been canceled. We can't get a quorum together that week. Before I go, it looks like Commissioner Tate would like to speak.
Oh, yes. I just wanted to follow up with Ms. Sotomayor. If I'm not mistaken, you were going to send us information about the number of ADUs that were the number of permits. And there were a couple other things in there since the ordinance changed, meaning the state mandate. And I don't think we've seen that yet. And that was like several meetings ago.
Yeah, I apologize. I have not sent that, but I will send it before our holiday break.
Great, thank you.
Okay, I believe that concludes our business for this evening, and I will adjourn the meeting. Thanks, everybody.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Happy
Yeah,
holidays.
Happy holidays.
Stay
Be well,
safe.
everybody.